Oh yes, oh yeah, yeah. When I look around me and how people live, you know, how they relate to their jobs and so on, I would have it no other way. Absolutely not. Usually in dry season I like to head outside to paint the watercolors outside. When I see, like I spend a lot of time in panyards, so I will have hundreds and hundreds of drawings of panyard, where I go panorama and see figures and all that kind of thing, and I would come home and draw them, and then I might take the carnival images and use it as a metaphor for something else. So my work, you know, it moves and it varies and it fluctuates, and the content shifts and the messages change, the focus changes. But the one thing that is consistent is that no matter what I'm doing, I try to make sure that I'm in control of the visual elements, my shape, my relationships, tonal relationships and juxtapositions, the drawing, the composition, and all that kind of thing. No matter what the content or the message might be. Like in this one here, which is a panyard, the phase 2 panyard, it was around the time when Woodbrook 1 was being built, and there was a lot of controversy and legal battles and public opinion for and against, and they said phase 2 had to move, and phase 2 said they're not moving, and lawyers were saying they don't have to move, and one set of confusion. And so I was intrigued by not just depicting the phase 2 pan, but depicting also the construction that was going on in the background, all the cranes and so on, and how they're hanging over the yard, you know, as a symbol or a metaphor for the kind of battle that was going on. And it so happened that year the phase 2 tune was called Sharing Licks. So little things like that suddenly come into focus and come into play. And as usual, I have the assertive woman standing in front of the band. So there are layers of meaning in the thing. At some point, the German sculptor Louis Kimmey, who was living in Tobago, gave a workshop for people who were interested in carving. And I was interested, 3D in that. And that is where I was introduced into wood carving, where instead of constructing a sculpture, you would start with a block of something, and by a reductive method, by taking away, you would arrive at the form. For a long time, because of the very deep impression that the landscape of Trinidad, landscape and seascape of Trinidad had left on me, I focused on that. It so happened that as a child, my father was a traveling officer, and his job related to coconut and copra and price control and so on. And he would have to travel throughout the country to coconut estates. And me and the older boys, there were 6 of us children, during holiday time we would go with him. And the experience of those travels, of the open air, of the light, of the outdoor light, of the sea, of the coast, left a deep and permanent impression on me. And for a long time I wanted to capture those images. and that was the subject matter. I find that people tend to simplify these notions and not realize how complex they are. I have had a few people refer to me as a person who paints seascapes, and they refer to it sometimes in a slightly derogatory manner, as if to say it's irrelevant. But I also notice that in a lot of my work of landscape or seascapes, I would often depict the clouds in a slightly exaggerated, ominous way. And to me, there's a potential there for another layer of meaning. In other words, while celebrating this landscape or the seascape, there's a suggestion that on the horizon something is happening, something is coming, there's a threat, and so on. So painting can get very oblique like that, can get very indirect like that. So that is why I hesitate to treat the notion subject matter in too superficial a way. In my teenage days, as I mentioned just now, the art critic was Derek Walcott, who happened to be a man with deep knowledge and understanding of art, a man who practiced painting in addition to his writing, and who read voraciously about art, everything about art, and alluded to it in his poems and so on. So the quality of his criticism was so good. And as the years went by, with the increase in people practicing, studying, participating, the level of public information and education diminished. And it reached a point sometimes where artists felt that they could tell the public about themselves or the quality of their work. This is not supposed to happen. Or the people writing about it don't have the knowledge and understanding. I think a difficulty that comes with the visual arts is that the public, the general public, is insecure about their judgment of art. And they're either reduced to I like that or I don't like that. Or they accept what they see in the media. I mean, I've done thousands and thousands of works. I can pull out hundreds of watercolors. I have a whole stack of them. Bad. They're terrible. It's bad work. It's overworked. Too much brush work. It's muddy. I didn't get the clarity. I should have simplified. The drawing is wrong. All kinds of things. And that is what I was talking about when I say I have a lot of bad work in here. People might come and say, wow, look at work. Do so much. So much of it is bad work, which maybe is the norm. I know that historically there are some artists who at some point just took a lot of work and destroyed it, which I was going to do until the family stopped me. I picked up a book, and it was a book on English watercolors. Now everybody at the time painted in oils. I was painting in oils. Everybody painted in oils. And I opened this book and I looked at it, and I looked at these watercolor reproductions of English landscapes. And it impressed me. It impressed me because there was something about the way that a watercolor wash goes on paper in a luminous, translucent kind of way that is so different from oil, the more physical, more opaque oil. And that experience of seeing watercolors in reproductions for the first time never left me. So years later, after university, I come home after 5 years in Canada, and all of a sudden I'm aware of the light, the hills, the greenery, all of that thing now hits me, and I feel, boy, I want to paint this. I want to paint this. I have to paint this outside, outdoors. Watercolor is the medium to do it in. But had I not had that experience in the library years before, my whole career as a watercolorist might never have taken off. But I never run out of ideas. There are things I have jotted down that I want to do, that I will never have the time to do in this life. So I'm always good to go undisciplined. I meet artists sometimes who tell me they haven't done anything for a long time. That doesn't happen to me.